Okay, so this is my boat. It's a 2014 Alumacraft Classic 165, and I have a 60 horsepower Evinrude E-Tech on it. It's 16.5 foot long. I bought this boat. This is my very first boat I've ever bought. I bought it brand new at Cabela's before Bass Pro owned it. And now Bass Pro doesn't want to sell Alumacraft or Evinrude. That's another story. It's not a good story, but we're not going to do that this video. Shame on you, Bass Pro. And so what I want to do is show you the kind of the layout. I'll tell you what I like and what I do like. I just want to preface, this is my first boat. If I had to buy a second boat, I would buy an entirely different setup, but hindsight is 2020, and now I know better. But with that said, I still love this little boat, and it works, and it really is only comfortable with me and one other person in the boat, especially on the river, with all the poles and the coolers and the nets and the tackle boxes, and I try to keep things to a minimum and push them down into the compartments. So what I'll do is I'll take my other handheld camera and I'll show you the inside of the boat. We'll be right back. Alright, well, let's talk about compartments. So there's a compartment here, and I have it open right now because I vacuumed it out and I'm just letting it dry. I got a little wet. It opens and closes and has a lock on it. And then this is also on the other side, or the driver's side, and little compartment. And what I normally do is I keep tackle and stuff in here because I don't really store rods in here. And over here I have my light, my navigation light that sticks up on the back of my boat, a real tall one, and then the paddle that by law that you have to have in your boat. Okay, so let's go up to the front. Now, this boat has a small live well here, you can see, and right now I have, I don't know, what do you call these things, buoys, the things to protect my boat when I'm pulling up on a dock or something. And that's what's in there. I don't use this live well a lot, to be honest. I don't think I've ever had a fish in there, but maybe once, and it was a fish I caught to use for bait. You know, I'm mainly catch, pitcher, release, and so I use this mainly for storage. Now, for a catfish boat, to be honest, I think the live well should be in the back here, and not here. And I'm not fitting a 60-pound blue or anything in this live well, and I'd have to squeeze it in there, and I don't think it would do very well in there. So I don't really use this live well that much. It's mainly storage. Then we have the battery compartment for the trolling motor, and it right now I usually have a lot more stuff in here. I keep like my rain suit in here, a cast net, but I've taken everything out so it'll dry. And you know, my battery charger's in there, and obviously this is the battery charger for the trolling motor, and then I've got the battery, I'm sorry, that's the battery charger for the trolling motor, and there is the battery for the trolling motor. And we'll go on the other side. There's another compartment. Same thing, it goes all the way through. This is normally where I keep any tackle boxes or anything that we bring. I don't like to be tripping over stuff, so one rule I have for anyone who brings on my boat: don't bring stuff you don't need. If you need tackle, I got it, or put it some way where I can stuff it down in here. Something plastic is worse. I prefer like a duffel bag so I can stuff it down in there. And so, so that's what I'm going to close this, but I'm opening back up because I'm trying to let it dry. And this is just the other side of the live well. I guess you could put, live bait here or chubs or something like that. I rarely ever use it. I never use it. Right, and so up here's a little cubby thing. I just keep a rope up in there and things like that. Normally a rope, always a rope. That's the rope when I put my boat in. I always have it there, so I always know it's there. And I don't have, this is not a full windshield, so there is no like glove box or anything like that. And I think in my next boat I want a full windshield. It really bothers the person who's sitting in the passenger chair when it might be raining or we might be hitting some waves and the waves splash them. I'm protected, but the person sitting here is not. Now with that said, it's nice also to be fighting a fish and to be able to walk all the way through there and not have to worry about a windshield. But I'm usually fishing out the back of the boat, and so I think a full windshield will work better for me. Obviously we have another compartment here. This is where the battery is. The battery's on this side. Closes and opens. Normally what I have here is like insect repellent, motor oil, things that are kind of I want to grab, because I'm usually sitting, this is where I'm usually sitting in this chair here, turned around, and so when I'm thinking about grabbing something like DEET or off, this is where I want it to be. I also store my anything that's kind of back of the end boat related. Boat plug is always in here. I have an extra boat plug in here, like I said before, my motor oil, and I try to sometimes keep my weighing bag here for my fish, so because I'm usually pulling a fish out the back and I know it's near, so I don't have to be walking up to the front. And so that's what we have right there. Obviously on the other side is the boat battery. And so I have the boat battery here. It's a brand new boat battery I just bought last week. My boat's 6 years old, and my last battery lasted about 6 years, and I figured it was still working, but I was like, let's get a new one so we don't have any issues when we're out on the river. And so that's the storage. And now one thing I do use for storage, underneath my dashboard, I guess, underneath there I can push a small cooler. That's normally where I keep all my camera equipment. I have my camera for taking videos, my camera for taking pictures, and it also has my what do you call it, my fire suppressant, my what you would spray if there was a spot of fire. For some reason I'm at a loss for words what you call that. A fire extinguisher, there we go. But it's I could put stuff underneath there. I put my cameras underneath there because they will stay dry if it starts raining or something. And I have like a cooler bag that's collapsible that zips up, and so I put my cameras down in there. That's basically my storage. Now I like having a boat with storage, and my next boat I like to have more storage. When I'm fishing, I like things to be neat. I don't want coolers on the floor, I don't want tackle boxes on the floor, I don't want to be tripping over things. Let's get this wet vac out of here, because I did wet vac the whole thing out. And now I'm going to talk to you about my pole holders. And so these are, what I did is I mounted some pole holders on 10-inch stems on the back of the boat. These are fish bite holders, I believe what they're called. And so I just mounted them on the boat like that. Next time I'll use hex bolts instead of screws. So I have one here, I have two more on the deck, and they're just right. They're right behind the motor, so that works. So these aren't on the lift, so I can lift this up and still get in and out and have my poles right there. And I got another one there, and then I have another one on the back side here. And so this is mainly what I use for my catfishing poles. And then I also mounted these Cabela's Canon style pole holders on my Aluma sliding track. So I can slide these around. I think this will loosen up here. Let's loosen it up. And that will slide around, so I can move these where I want. And I have one of those. I have another one up here on the bow. I have another one right over there on the bow, and another one on the back for the passenger. So in total we have 8 rod holders, and that's more than enough in this little boat. And normally I'm not using all of them. At the most I'm using 6. So I said we have 8, and I might have 5 to 6 rods going. And now let's talk about my motor. I have a 60 horsepower Evinrude E-Tech 2-stroke engine. This engine has always started for me. I've been very happy with this engine. My only issue right now is I'm not sure if Evinrude's still in business, going out of business, if they'll be making parts for it or not. And like I said before, I bought this boat from Cabela's before they got bought by Bass Pro. And Bass Pro bought Cabela's, and due to that buyout, Evinrude is no longer serviced at Cabela's. So I was taking this motor to Cabela's to get it serviced, and now they're telling me they can't service. I don't know who's to blame. The technician has told me that Bass Pro kicked Evinrude out. Another technician told me Evinrude said we don't want to be with Bass Pro. I don't know the story, but I do know this. I bought the boat at Cabela's, and now they won't service it. And they also kicked out Alumacraft. So luckily I haven't had any issues with it. Unfortunately, there's no Evinrude dealership in Omaha, Nebraska, and I'm told the closest one is in Kansas City, which is 2 to 2.5 hours away, or Sioux City, which is another 2 hours away. But right now the engine has been working for me. You know, this engine has a little feature. I assume all engines have this. I push this little button here, and it'll go up and go down. And I have it down right now because I don't want it sticking out in the street. My driveway's not long enough for it to be fit in my driveway on the trailer with my SUV pulling it. Now, of course I want a bigger motor, but when I bought this boat, I didn't know if I was even going to like going out on the river, and so I bought the bare minimum, thinking that later I will buy another boat. And you know, this boat was less than, you know, it was about $19,000 if I remember. My payment's only $168. I only really run this on the river. We have lakes around here, but they don't excite me, and so it's usually me just running to a spot, sitting, running to a spot and sitting. So I have very low hours on this boat, and I religiously take it in to the dealership when there was a dealership, and so I'm probably going to have to tow it somewhere 2.5 hours away just to get it all checked out and tuned up and everything, unless I can find someone here. I'm past the warranty, so maybe I can find someone to do it here, so we'll see. Now, let me tell you what I don't like about this boat and what I do like about this boat. Let's start with the positive. First of all, I like to catfish. I like to carp fish. I'm on a muddy river. This boat has very little carpet, and my wife saved me from that. She was with me when I was looking at the boat, and she said, maybe you shouldn't get a boat with a bunch of carpet because that carpet's going to rot and start stinking. She saved me. Now, I do have some carpet. You know, I have some carpet up here on the bow, and there's some carpet on the sides and the back. This is carpet, and that's carpet over there. And there's a little carpet on the dashboard and by the live well. I highly recommend that if you're going to catfish, don't get any carpet. My next boat will have zero carpet, if that's possible. No carpet. Now, I wish this boat had more storage. Like I said before, I wish it had a full windshield. But, you know, hindsight is 20/20. I'd like the full windshield to protect the passenger, and also I kind of want the dash. I want the glove box so I can put stuff in it. But I do like to have the storage. Now, there's another boat I like I like the G3 Sportsman, but it doesn't have a rod locker like this, so I may have to rethink the whole G3 if that's what I'm going to do next. This boat is small. It's 16.5 foot. I knew that when I bought it. This isn't a boat that you're going to fish comfortably with 3 people. 2 at the most, me and another passenger, and that's kind of my rule. Only way I would take 3 people is if another person was sitting up here just to kind of watch. It'd have to be a short trip, but I'm not going to go out on the river for 8 hours with 3 people. It's just too much stuff to fumble over, just too much. I'd have to get a longer, wider boat. And this is basically my boat. I've got a Minn Kota on the front, which I never use because I don't do that type of fishing. You know, I don't. This isn't strong enough to hold me in the river, and so it sits there. And sometimes when I'm on a lake, when I gas bass fish, which I never do, and so, you know, I'm probably going to sell this boat and trade it in for something else. But right now, my focus is on getting something else to tow the next boat with and get that paid off before I get into another boat payment. And so this is my boat. You know, is it perfect? No, but it works and it gets me out on the river, and my payment is only $168. You know, it's Alumacraft Classic. It's sitting on a Eagle, you know, trailer. I've never had any problems with it, not once. Never had any problems with my Evinrude, but you know, knock on wood, let's hope it never happens. So if you got any questions, leave any comments down below and I'll try to answer them the best I can. Tight lines and good fishing. This is Michael at BigMuddyFishing.com.